Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Dimensional, everybody. We are here today, just the two of us. I know it's probably very disappointing we don't have someone fabulous to interview, but today is a very cool episode because Lori and I are going to tell you guys all about our experience at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles that we went to last weekend.
It was so amazing. So much fun.
It was crazy. Firstly, it's 4 days long. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I could not believe how long this event was. This is like what, the 20-something year, 23rd year that this has been going on?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wild. Someone mentioned that there were supposed to be like 10,000 people coming through there. I just cannot believe it.
Sure felt like it. Okay, I felt like 10,000 fucking people walked into me at one point. I'm certain of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know how I am. I'm already like, please, everybody's energy, don't come near me. Let me be in my bubble. And then they're like knocking me and pushing me. I know it's not intentional, right?
Totally.
I totally am not saying.
Oh, we were all trying to.
Right. The lines were crazy. I guess it was just a, busy year. Maybe it's always like this.
I heard that it was actually less people this year because of the fires and stuff that some people didn't come because we met people from all over the country, probably the world that we just didn't talk to. But guys, just put it in perspective. Totally. It has its own magazine. Like this is like the schedule of events and all the different people and shit that come. So it's legit. This thing's like 100 pages long.
Well, we could not survive 4 days because we have other things to do, which is too bad. I wish it was a little more condensed because I think they had a lot of things that were kind of overly repeat topics. And then it was really confusing on like, who do you go see?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was that for me. And I'm easily overwhelmed by all these choices, totally. But you couldn't get everywhere, right? I think the venue was too small too.
It did feel small. It did feel small. It was, well, for as many people as show up there and for this type of event where not everyone, I will use this term very loosely, quote, enlightened beings, where like people who dive into the spiritual, people who have, very special energies or sensitivities to energy and shit like that. Like it was a very palpable space for like a sardine can of humans to exist. So, and some of the rooms we went into, like the one on the bottom floor, which was like, it's like as if it were a ballroom and they cut it off with the walls in between. It had no windows. It had one door. It was zero circulation of air. It was just very claustrophobic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, those are our only complaints. Yes. Otherwise, it was pretty amazing. And there was a lot of really cool shit that we saw, experienced, and more that we missed out on. Yeah. However, as we'll talk more, going through this, we have some amazing connections, some amazing people that are going to come on the podcast with us. So some of the people we missed that I'm like, oh my God, I want to see so-and-so. I was able to connect with them or we connected with them in the vendor area. So I'm super excited to get that lined up. But, let's talk about the first event because that one pretty much blew my mind and I still am trying to process everything that happened.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. How do we start? Guys, I mean, we walked in on a Saturday morning and Lori and I, she's showing the book right now if people are just listening, but it's called the Zazar Transmissions. What is Zazar? Who is Zazar? I didn't even know it was pronounced Zazar until I showed up. I was like, what is this thing? So we went to, 10 a.m. on a Saturday. We wander into this room with a bunch of people and this sweet old woman is sitting in the middle of the space and she's surrounded by two other women who, if you like literally pluck them out of a dictionary or encyclopedia of like who are like witchy middle-aged women, like that's exactly what they looked like. It was like just a clear setup of just the spiritual people who dive into this shit. And her name, so the main woman is Marilyn Gawak. She is a clinical psychologist. She's a PhD. So she's nothing to sneeze at for sure. But she is someone who, quote, downloads, transmits, and channels Zazar, who is an omnidimensional ET being.
Yes.
I mean, what the fuck, right?
So she was in the middle, and then on the left of her was her wife, Diane. Mm-hmm. I loved her energy. Yeah. I was more into her energy than Marilyn. Is it Marilyn? Yeah, Marilyn's energy. But there was something about her wife that was like, oh, to me. Anyway, yeah. So carry on. Sorry, as I
No,
do, I
no,
interrupted.
I was waiting for an in. So she's written many books, but I'll just kind of read what the breakdown is on the breakout, as it were. It was a workshop that we went into, and it says, in this most scintillating workshop, Dr. Guwak and Zazar will take you on an experiential voyage, soaring in the cosmic energies of the galactics, all while establishing a 50 community of human unity together in the moment of now. Okay, so the whole thing was about the ascension of earthly beings. There was a lot. Firstly, it was a little. I don't know what to make of it. I'm gonna like the further I get away from the event, the more skeptical I'm gonna get. So, immediately afterward, there was just this like these moments of like, whoa, what was that? That's crazy. And as I'm further away, I'm like, okay, Liz, you went to NYU, you studied acting and characters, and immediately you could have been like, yeah, that's a script, straight up. But this woman, I kid you not, she just did an intro and like herself, and she's like, okay, and this is my story of how Zazar came to me. And you're thinking, okay, well, this woman is a psychologist. She either had a mental breakdown or this shit actually happened to her, right? But she seemed to be pretty
Yeah.
clear and well spoken, very highly educated. And then she's like, at some point they were like, hey, time's going by, let's get this show on the road. And she's like, okay, let's grab Zazar. And it was as if she like pulled him out from right behind the stage, you know what I mean? Because she was just like closed her eyes really quick and she was like, I am Zazar, and like had this kind of weird vocal thing happen with an accent that was, I couldn't really tell if it was like Latin or Indian or like some combination of something, but it was Trey bizarre. Zazar.
So here's the thing. Like, I have never been to anything like
Yeah.
this. I believe anything's possible. I try to be very open. I will start by saying I can't say it was real and I can't say it wasn't.
Yes.
I just don't know. What I will say is the messages were
Yes.
great and the information that was brought through and the perspective was that was brought through really resonated and was fantastic. So I'm going to take that
Yes.
away. Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at, I channel, and I think we talked about this, right? Because she's channeling Zazar. I channel when I read. But when I channel, it's nobody inhibits my body and speaks. So maybe what I'm doing isn't real channeling. I don't fucking know. That's what I thought it was. But when I channel, the information comes through me. I don't process it. So it's not a download. It just comes out and
Mm-hmm.
through. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So it's a little different, right? Than when I'm getting downloads and I'm interpreting. It's a little more direct. But never once have I channeled a being or somebody's relative through my body, partially because I don't want that. That makes me nervous. So maybe that's why I don't get that. Maybe that's what happens. We hear a lot of it now, like Daryl. His last name starts with an A, Daryl something. He's very famous for interpreting and channeling Basher, who's another big one. It's probably Bashar, not Basher. Hello. Anyway,
Like we know.
let me just say, like, the part where I got
Mm-hmm.
lost, and you and I talked about
Mm-hmm.
that, is for those of you who have listened to this podcast enough, and as you continue to listen, you'll know Lori's a big fuck organized religion person. Fuck it all. That's my perspective. Again, y'all believe what you want. That's just my perspective. And one of the things that I grew up with in the Pentecostal church, we tried all the religions. We like to hop and see which one worked out. So Pentecostals like speaking.
I was like, we're still wondering. Haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah. So Pentecostals and maybe others, I don't know, they speak in tongues. And tongues is like a bunch of gibberish and it's supposedly the spirit of God. Everybody starts, blah, 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 it's the whole thing. But I remember in the Bible, it says that when people speak in tongues, it's supposed to benefit everybody around. It doesn't happen if it doesn't benefit people. Well, that shit used to happen in the church. And I'd be like, not benefiting me. No, make it stop. It was very uncomfortable. Anyway, the other thing they did with tongues is people were healed. Please come forward. The Spirit of God is here. Jesus is in the
Yeah.
building, whatever, however it went. And they'd come up and they'd touch them and they'd heal and they'd fall down and it's blah, all the fake shit, right? So we got a little bit of
Yeah.
that in this
Yeah.
workshop.
Totally.
Yeah. So that threw me off and it kind of shut me down a little
Yeah.
bit. I don't know. What was your thought? What was your experience of it?
So, well, I'm glad it happened when it did. So this was almost like an hour and a half to hour 45-minute workshop for those who are listening.
Yeah.
So, we get there, she
Yeah.
does a little intro in the background of like how Zazar found her and blah, blah, blah. And then she switches into Zazar, and she's very charismatic as Zazar. Like Zazar is like quick and witty, and he's got the jokes, and she's talking us through like, oh, there's a ship above us right now. We're watching you on the main screen. Like everyone's paying attention to you guys. But I agree with you, Lori, where like her message, it wasn't like, we're coming for you and you better watch out. It was all messages of true, like it was love. It was like, hey, humans, like we're in a moment to find our way to the ascension, meaning like to find our way into love and light, and focusing on the good in people and focusing on the light in other humans, so that we can remove the darkness and remove the trauma and remove the bullshit, right? So I did really like that. I was like, at least it's like coming at it from like unity. It is really trying to like, was they, like the messaging up for the group was to bring us together. And I do remember when she
Yeah.
first was like, I sat there and I was like, okay, let me do some like body openings, and I sat with my palms up and my feet on the floor. And I do remember in the first 15 or 20 minutes when she was, getting Zazar going, I started feeling really sick. And maybe it was the energy from everyone in the room, or just no circulation, like,
Yeah.
or maybe it was just like the energy she was pulling from wherever she was pulling it. But I started to feel physically ill, and I was like, ooh, I got to shut this down. I got to turn it off. But then she started getting into the good messaging, and it did feel like unifying in the room. Like she did an activity where she had everyone hug each other and do all that. And it felt very strange to be hugging strangers, to be totally honest. But there were some people where you could feel like they needed that shit. And Lori and I are not emotional creatures, but there were a lot of people crying. And I think there was a lot of just like the need for people to come together from whatever their traumas were. So I liked that. I was like, oh, okay, this feels very kumbaya. But, some people, they held you a little longer than you expected. And you're like, okay, like, it's not just about me, like it's about the other people here. And
Yeah.
then it did get weird. Like she had someone get up who she had, I guess, invited to be a part of this. And by she, I mean Marilyn, but Zazar was talking. And she pulled this woman up who she has studied some sort of languages, and she discovered her voice, and her voice, I don't remember exactly how they put it, but it was like her voice was speaking, the language of ascension, essentially, right? Like she voiced the will of the people, and the light of humanity, and the love and whatever. But when she came out, so
Are you talking about the other
the
one?
singer,
The singer. Okay, sorry.
yeah, because
Yes.
that's where it started to get
Yes.
weird,
Because
right? She called her up and she was like, who wants
that,
to sit and get and feel the power of her voice?
yes.
And they had someone sit in
Yes.
front
Yes.
of
Yes.
her while she was holding onto her shoulders behind her. And it was this whole presentation.
Yes.
And she was not speaking a language anyone in that room knew. It was just sounds. And I understand the concept, which is just like, for some reason, because voice is vibration, and there are certain intonations for music, for instance.
Yeah.
There's certain chords and certain things that evoke feeling and give positive feelings, versus the dissonance of sound can create, discomfort, all those types of things. So she was singing a pleasant tune, but it was total gibberish. It was just sounds that and afterwards she was like almost like exhausted and emotional, and the girl in front of her, when they were like, how did that feel, what did that feel like, and she goes, community, unity, love. And it was just very strange. And then,
And she was crying
yeah,
and shaking.
crying and shaking. And when Zazar asked her, how do you feel, and she's like, she started just like saying words in her language, right? She was like, oh, I'm just shaking and la 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 la. And it's like, okay. And then I remember you turned to me and you were like, yeah, I'm out.
Okay. So here's the thing. Again, I'm not laughing at these people. I want to be really clear. Like, I believe they believed it. I believe they felt it. I believe it was real for them. So I want to say that I'm not at all laughing at them. I'm just, first of all, I have issues. Okay. Another one of my issues is type of fucking noise. Like that squealing stuff. I can't, it squishes my insides. I can't. And that's all the time with
I
everything. Okay.
know.
But the whole like show of it,
Yeah.
for me, I don't know. Okay, so in all seriousness, I believe that those types of moments, that very spiritual, connected event for that woman that was sitting there receiving whatever it is that was being transmitted to her physically and emotionally, right? That's a private, intimate, special moment that other people that she does not know might not need to be there
Mm-hmm.
for. So for me, that's also the other part of like, if this is so real, how is it happening with everyone in the room? Now, we could say it's happening to benefit everyone, right? But that takes me right back to my world of church and
Yeah.
tongues and all this, right? So I don't know. I walked away with like, that was cool to experience. I liked the
Mm-hmm.
messaging. I people like had this amazing experience. Quite a few people they talked to that were very touched. And, I remember the one who said she had been having these dreams, torturous type dreams for years. And, Zazar through Maryland was able to help heal some of that. And it was very
Mm-hmm.
emotional. And, if that's what happened and that person is connected and feels better and walks away healed in any way,
Great.
more power to everyone. It just wasn't necessarily my thing.
Totally.
Maybe,
Yeah, because then it did start to get to like people raising their hands and her coming and Cesar coming over and like touching them and doing the healing moment. I would be really interested to know it, to talk to some of those people afterward, a week later, a month later, a year later, and be like, so how are those dreams? Do those come back?
yeah,
Or was that just
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? It was like just to see, did that change you permanently? Or was that just a momentary feeling the energy of the room and feeling like you were seen and you were heard and you felt like you did feel some sort of unity and love that in that moment felt like created that kind of momentary healing, but it didn't actually resolve problems.
Yeah, and the whole back to the whole hugging thing, I'm not the most let me hug all the people I don't know human, but I in that space I was open to it. I'd rather just hug you. I was like, "Oh, this is fine. I'll just turn and hug
Yeah.
Liz. I'm used to hugging Liz. It's great." But I think it was fine. I think the intention was great. To your point, I think people needed it. I was happy to do it. That was fine. It just all was a lot. Maybe I just wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like next time if I did it again, I'd be a little more prepared. I need to, you know, be energetically and emotionally and physically
Mm-hmm.
prepared. I was like, obviously after the high pitched noises, and I'm like, I got to get out of here, and it was freaking hot and all the stuff. I was out, ready to go. Now, what's also interesting is when we went to meet them afterwards, because I wanted to get this book, which I have, and I think I showed everybody. You can see it, Zazar. There's the book. Pretty cool. I am going to read it, by the way. So, went to meet Marilyn. Mostly, I wanted to meet her wife, Diane, because Diane had the most fucking fantastic energy of any of the humans I met the entire expo. I'm serious about this. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn had no interest in talking to me, which I thought was interesting. And again, not because, like, me? What do you mean? I'm amazing. She should have totally wanted to talk to me. No.
Yeah.
But she was talking to all the people and signing books,
Yeah.
right? She was not super interested in connecting with me at all. That in any way to even really say hi or whatever. I did get them to take a picture, but I thought that was also interesting because sometimes I feel like when people put on a show and then they know someone else might know, or they're just intuitive enough to know somebody's skeptical, they turn
Yeah.
off. I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping, but that just also felt weird to
Yeah, it
me.
just also feels weird that if you're going to put yourself in a space like that where hundreds of people potentially would be coming to you for to see you and meet you one on one, that you wouldn't be open to everyone and just even pretend. You know what I mean? Even to pretend
Right. Yeah.
feign interest in someone who could be a huge fan or brand new fan or whatever. Like even and it's like a celebrity who does a show. Like if you go to a rock concert and then afterward they do a meet and greet and that person's an asshole to everyone in line, it ruins the whole experience. You're just like, well, I don't want to come see you anymore. You weren't nice to me.
Yeah, it was just odd. And, again, it could have been my energy too. I could have been putting out the like, I don't really know about this.
Like,
And so she was repelled from it, which is
sure.
fine. But yeah, it was an interesting experience. I would love to interview them. I know they're too famous or, for us in our little podcast here, but I would love to know so much more about not just like having Zazar come through, but like the true story of like how it happened and how it's impacted her life, their lives.
Yeah.
I'll reach out and ask, who
Yeah.
knows?
Hey, if she's really, really, if she really is the messenger about the ascension, and we go, hey, we want to tell our audience about the ascension. Come and get it. And Zazar is legit.
Yep.
Come and get it, Zazar. We're here for it. We're
Yeah.
waiting.
Daryl, I don't know if it's Anka or it's something
Is
like
he in?
that. He's the one that channels Bashar, who's really
Oh,
famous.
Daryl Anka? Yeah, you're
He
right.
Thank you. I didn't go to his presentation. I should have.
Mm.
Because I don't know, I get a different vibe when I watch him on video than I did her.
Mm.
Anyway, not
Interesting.
to beat a dead horse about this one topic, but
Yeah,
yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. Glad we did
same.
it. Super interested in like hearing from other people that do the same
Mm-hmm.
thing and experiencing it just to compare.
Yeah, this definitely opened a lot of doors on like what this world is like because shit is crazy. And again, if anyone's in the Los Angeles area for the next one and you have any curiosity about this shit, go for one day and you will walk around with so much information. It's just okay. So the next one we went into, and I'll just say that we left early, so we don't really have to get into it too much. But the next one we went into is with Tangela and Charlie Lamson, reconnecting with Lemuria, which I still don't really understand what Lemuria is. Did you get take that away from anything?
It's a planet.
Okay.
It's another planet. I think that was my take, though. Again, I didn't really tune into that
No,
one
I
too
mean, we don't
much.
have to harp on it because we left early, but just to give people understanding on like Zazar, never heard of it before. Fifth dimensional being,
Yeah.
Lemuria, some sort of planet. So it says journey into the depths of your spiritual heritage with Charlie Lamson as he activates your dormant memories of his high consciousness civilization through his vivid recollections. So the whole workshop was, to my understanding, because we were there for like half of it, they walked
Yeah.
us through. Firstly, I didn't like their vibe. I did
Yeah.
not
I was
like it.
off.
He had a very like put on cadence and strange eye contact in the room, and it felt very bizarre,
Yep.
really weird. And she just felt like she was trying to get famous. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it, but they just walked you through a visualization tip for meditation. Firstly, it was in the same room we had just been in, so there were tons of bodies that had just been in there sweating and moving around and talking to Zazar. And then it was also underground, so it was hot in there. There were a lot of smells,
Yep.
as you can imagine, like a lot of people with different perfumes and scents and essential oils that they love and candles burning and like all this weird shit. So like there were a lot of smells. Lucky for Lori, she doesn't smell it, but sadly when it's so strong, she just gets a headache from it. But my head was hurting.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah, the
allergic.
woman next to me was wearing some sort of patchouli or some sort of very like
Oh,
woodsy sacred smell. There was noise happening from outside from really loud rooms of people, and they were trying to like get us into this visualization. And I was at some point I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Fuck, like I'm hungry, I'm hot, like why? And then eventually I think just the lull and my like just brute force of my will was just like go into a trance. So I just like listened to my own inner voice and I
yeah.
was able to like get into something, but also, it was the girl next to me had to get the fuck out of there because she's breathing so heavy and she did leave. But I had my eyes closed and I was just trying to, and like every time I tuned into what they were saying, I was like, no, that's wrong. And like went on my own adventure. But at some point, like it just felt strange to be sitting in there and not know what the hell they were talking about. And then we were just so hungry that we just left. But I don't know. I just, yeah.
Okay. So I'm not good at guided meditation for long periods because ADHD, I hardly can sit still. But I'm practicing. And so I appreciated the space of practicing. But I'm with you. The way that he talked was too robotic and commercially like it was like a car salesman
Yeah.
commercial a little bit to me, right? Like the inflections. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm being so judgy. It's bad karma. I shouldn't be doing it.
Hey, we're judgy
Um,
because we're here to give a different perspective, okay? Like sometimes you
fair.
gotta, if you build it, they will come. Like there's a lot of people who are skeptical and a lot of people who don't buy into that shit and a lot of people who are turned off by those types of
Yeah.
examples. And so, like we're here to call it like we see it. Sorry, you didn't hit for us, guys.
Yeah, I liked her energy enough. One-on-one, she might have
Yeah.
been fun to talk to. I think she was definitely following his lead. There was a weird power dynamic there that I could feel that it was like a little weird for me. Um, but at the end of the day, I couldn't get into it. And I won't even say it's all them. It was partially the woman huffing and puffing sitting next to you that was making me
Hmm.
crazy. I couldn't think because puffing and puffing was so
Yeah.
loud. If that's how you meditate, by all means do it. I just don't know if group meditation then is a great idea. And it was hot. It's almost like they need the rooms to take a break before they pack people in there. They need like a larger space where they can rotate rooms. Somebody goes in and clears it out,
Yeah.
opens a window, a little sound cleansing, get out the smell. It was just a lot of residual. But yeah, that was odd.
Like, for something that's the Conscious Life Expo, I'm curious to know if it's run by people who actually believe in some of this, because to your point just now, it's like when you're performing workshops, which include people meditating and utilizing energy and like
Yeah.
changing the dynamic in a space, and then they just rotate back and forth and without clearing air, like it doesn't really allow for the right vibes for each workshop. And I would think that maybe there are like 15-minute gaps in between. Maybe the practitioners are doing those kinds of things, but I don't know. But to your point, like if that is an intentional part of the experience, then it almost feels like the people who put it on aren't thinking through the like legitimacy of what they're trying to get across.
Yeah, and I think it's just a business.
Yeah.
I don't think it's people like us that are trying to set this up. I think they had so many people that wanted to buy space that they jammed anyone and everyone in there as a presenter and didn't really think about that overall
Yeah.
experience. I'd rather pay a little more on a ticket and have a better, more organized situation.
I mean, I get it that like, there's a lot of people that go. So, but it was $50 for a day pass, and that's not a lot for as much shit as
No,
goes
yeah.
on. So I guess they are kind of just banking on like the numbers. But if they increased it even by to, 75, $100 for the single, right? Wasn't it $50? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or they need to just go and have a
That's what I
week
think.
and do themed
There needs to be
different
a
days on
week.
different themes, different
Yeah.
topics on each day type of thing, or split the days. I don't
Yeah.
know. And after that
Lunch.
we had lunch, right?
Yep.
And then what did we go to after that? Was that the one with the first responders?
Yes.
That was
Yes.
cool. Even though that wasn't what we signed up
No.
for, I felt more excited about those people than some of the other ones, even though it really didn't have anything to do with, you know, what
Well,
we're
I
talking
loved
about.
it because they were so just to give everyone an understanding. So we went into one of the spaces and they had made a change to the schedule without really doing great to inform everyone. So we were in the room expecting one presentation and these other people came up and it was a pretty like small space and not like barely maybe a dozen people were in the room because I guess other people got the message it was a change. And it
Yeah.
ended up being a woman who was a 30-year, she'd been in a first responder, what was her paramedic? Yeah,
Paramedic,
for
yeah.
30 plus years and had retired for medical reasons and other things. And she decided that she wanted to start a company that would help first responders using alternative types of medicine. So what her thing is drum therapy, right? That's what they're doing.
I think it was a lot of
Yeah.
different things, right? I think they were doing types of
Yes.
meditations. So this workshop that we were in focused on the drum
Yes.
sound, drum therapy,
Yes.
music therapy, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, different types other than
Mm-hmm.
medication, but also their big thing was, we do a lot for people like
Mm-hmm.
veterans and give them resources to heal, but we don't do as much for the people that are first responders. Now, I don't necessarily believe that's true in the sense of we talk that we do a lot for veterans, but we really don't. I mean, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
However, doesn't invalidate what she's saying, right? It's like, especially coming off these fires, thinking about firefighters and the first responders. I mean, the stuff that they see, the things that they experience, it's not just the helping the injured, it's the
Mm-hmm.
emotional, traumatic, painful stuff that
Yeah.
they go through and the wear and tear on their physical body
Yeah.
even. Yeah, that was their whole goal, was to talk about this newer program that they have, and they bought some land recently in Northern California where they're going to make a huge
Yeah.
space that's for bringing first responders and putting them through these therapies. She talked about the high suicide
Yeah.
rates and all of that with first responders. I mean, it
Addiction.
really, to me, yeah, it was really, really, yeah, it just resonated.
Percent. And it was so nice because she's like, we do so many things after it's already happened. She's like, they already have PTSD,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they end up, on
yeah,
tons of
yeah,
medication for
totally.
anxiety and depression. And a lot of her, she said she lost a lot of her friends over the years to suicide, like you said. And she ended up, with having to go through cancer treatments and different surgeries and things. So she had a different experience. But imagine, you know, was that from partially from her body breaking down, lifestyle, and it could be energy exchange transfer from all the negative impacts that she's had. So she's leading the charge for trying to do more upfront training to get people into the emotional, spiritual space to be able to heal better when they arrive versus going through 30 years of trauma and then having it treated afterward. So she's trying to kind of create
Yeah.
the cycle at the beginning. And I really just liked that it was kind of doing a little bit like what we're doing. Like we're trying to bridge the gap of like what's traditional and what's understood and what's logical to our brains because it's scientific, and what actually works for the holistic being and what is beyond what, is accepted, quote unquote, right?
Mhm.
Not just psychology and therapy and drugs, but drum therapy. And then so she brought up to people who have their own, it's called Raven Drum Circle. I can't remember the name now, but it's the drummer
Right.
of oh my God,
Def
Def
Leppard.
Leppard, yes. The drummer from Def Leppard told us his story about how he lost his arm when he's 21 in a car wreck. So he's like big on first responders. And then, back in 2001, he met his now wife, who's a percussionist as well. And she started working in the realm of drum therapy, music therapy, rhythm therapy with people. Many years ago, and so they got involved in that, and so now they have this community that has joined now with the woman who is the paramedic and is part of the whole movement that they're trying to create. I thought it was really great.
I am biased a little in the sense that I loved the woman, and I'm so bad with names, but the woman who started this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I loved her story of like she had been a first responder. She had had these health issues. She was raising kids. She got to a point of like, now what? She didn't really have the money, but she somehow just made this happen and left what she was doing and put everything into starting this training program, this group, this business. And I just loved that. I loved that she just jumped in to do something for people at whatever cost to herself. Her family was there, super supportive. I just thought that was really sweet. That was probably one of my favorite experiences, just hearing that very genuine story, what happened in these people's lives, how they're turning things
Yeah.
around, what they're doing for others. I don't know. I love that. That always makes me feel, especially with all the shit going on in the world right now and LA coming out of the fires, part of me was a little sappy and emotional.
Yeah, it was. It was just like you really felt because it wasn't a big song and dance, especially since like it was like no one was expecting the drummer from Def Leppard to get up and you know what I mean? Like that was such a surprise for
Yeah.
someone to be such a celebrity in a room that was just like 10 people deep and half of them were the family members of the people speaking. Like they were just like, that's my daughter, that's my son,
Yeah.
they're here to support me. Like
It was
it was
cute.
so
Yeah.
genuine. Like they weren't there because they wanted an audience. They were there because they needed to just share what they're doing and try, like they're really doing the work, and it just was so real.
100%.
Yeah, and it wasn't about the people in the room, it was about like a greater good understanding, and it was really nice. I want to do a drum therapy session. I'm not a first responder though.
Yeah, but that kind of music therapy for
Yeah,
anyone, especially you're musically talented, you're connected to music, that would be,
everyone's connected to music.
amazing. Yeah, some people more so than
Yeah.
others, I think. Um, yeah, so that was a good
Then
one.
it was the DNA guy, the blood guy.
Oh, I kind of have a crush
A
on
little
him.
bit. He is like a weird, like very,
Yeah, I wonder if he's
yeah,
single. I wonder if he's
he
single.
might be. He might be.
Okay, this workshop was called
Hmm.
Superhuman. And essentially, his son, who's now, I think my daughter's age, 25, 26 years old, was born with autism. And I think he might have had some other issues, Crohn's, colitis, ADHD. Yeah, I'll speak in my language, all the stuff. And they couldn't really get the right treatment, couldn't really get the right medication. There was a lot of things, that weren't working. And Stan, which I believe is his
Stan
name, I'm
Kurtz.
pretty sure I remember. Yeah, because I think he's cute. Is an intuitive. I don't know if he's psychic. I think he is
Yeah.
actually. Kind of knew there was a better way, and he started working on different therapies, natural therapies that could help with his son's autism, ADHD. And yeah, so that was the intro to
Yeah.
some of it. They use all kinds of therapies. There's a special like B12 nose spray, I think was the first one
Mm-hmm.
that he was talking
Yeah.
about. He has a center in Simi
Mm-hmm.
Valley, and people can go there and he looks at your blood and he like diagnoses based on what he sees in your blood different things that might be wrong with you, from Lyme disease to leukemia,
Mm-hmm.
and he creates a therapy that can include detoxing metals through your feet. I know with some oxygen chambers, the nasal spray.
Yeah. So what he was saying, because I was like, we went to the workshop and some of it I was following, but some of it I wasn't because in, 30 minutes, how much can you really get? Or was it 30, 45 minutes maybe? It's like he was sharing just a lot of the transformation stories. But what he said was because he's an
Yeah,
inventor and a scientist, he's not like a doctor. So, he's just learned a lot from his essentially experimenting over time, but they're all holistic therapies that are not like you don't have to go to a hospital to get them done. So, and it's sometimes thought to be like woo woo things, but he, I guess, invented an energy reader that he attaches to regular microscopes. So it actually reads the
right.
levels of energy in your blood cells. So that's what shines,
Yeah,
that's what's so special about the way that he looks at it, because normal microscopes look at light and it looks at something else that I can't remember, but it looks at two different factors and it doesn't factor in energy. So when he looks at it through the lens that he has attached to the microscope, you could see like glowing colors and like light formations. And he's showing you, he can see like parasites, just, I mean, it's blood, right? You can see the blood cells.
yeah.
He could actually now identify what stem cells looked like. And so he was able to start patterning different ways that he could see them. He said that what he discovered is that parasites, when he looked further and deeper into them, he saw stem cells all through the parasites. And so in his work, which now has been
It
20
was
years or
wild.
something, he's like, now we know, like, he's like, in my work, I understand from what I'm seeing that stem cells that parasites steal your stem cells to survive. And he's like, through identifying what the energy pattern is, he could start seeing it in stem cells and parasites in water sources, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was
I know. I don't want to share too much about
wild.
that because it like ruined my life, but at the same time we got a drink. So yeah, he like showed us, he like looked in water and I was like, oh God, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But it just goes to show that like everything is energy, everything has energy. And when you can find the patterns of how they transfer, it's really remarkable. So the work that he does in CME includes, like you said, the nasal sprays. So he's talked, the reason why he does it nasally and not like through a pill or through a something you eat is because it
Yeah,
goes more directly into the blood, into your brain.
the
And what it
totally.
helps to signal your brain to reorganize the way that your cells are working. So it's almost like
Yeah,
it's just like doing a reset on your body because we're trained, like we've been trained, and like our brains have been trained to treat our cells in a certain way. And so when you're holding on to bacteria or viruses or illness, you just kind of have to hit a reset button, I guess is kind of how he's doing it. So nasal spray therapy, he does hydrogen, which he was doing with people there, setting them up on hydrogen to hydrate their cells.
yeah.
And then, like you said, the metal detoxes. He said magnets too.
Oh yeah, that was another interesting one. Magnet
Yeah.
therapy.
But he does like a hyperbaric chamber, like a special type of hyperbaric chamber, but all sorts of these
Yeah,
other ways to like reignite your system. And he says he cures things like Lyme disease in 2 14-hour days. And like people are just relieved of Lyme disease forever.
yeah. He also said that almost everybody has Lyme
Yeah,
disease.
which I also find fascinating and terrifying.
Yeah, for me, the most fascinating part was watching him work. So we did the workshop where he kind of gave the introduction, and I, was listening as much as my ADHD brain will
Yeah.
allow. And then I'm like, okay, I think he's cute. Can we move on?
Part of it is his energy though. He's very confident.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah.
That's why I
And
think he's cute.
charismatic.
Anyway, the next day we went to stand in line to see if we could get our blood tested, but we waited like well over an
Yeah.
hour and there was no way we were gonna
He went
get
through two
make
people.
this happen. Yeah, but he was
Oh,
great.
it's
He was
great.
helping these people from, I think they're here from Mexico,
Yeah.
and they had had all these problems. And he was taking, like, we could all see the blood on the big screen before and after the treatments that he had given them, the spray and then the hydrogen, I think
Yep.
it was,
Hmm.
right? And where the cells, blood cells were all clustered together where they shouldn't
Super
be. And then after the
inflamed. Yeah.
treatment, they had started to separate. I thought that was pretty
Very
cool.
cool. And you could see things like the white blood cells, and you could see he's like, "Hey guys, this is a white blood cell, but it's so congested and inflamed that it's trapped and it can't do its job." He's like this, and he would show us
Yeah.
what a healthy blood cell, like a blood sample, should look like, and it's just circles, like line circles with nothing else in them, and like no one's blood looked like that, and it
Yeah.
was pretty insane. But he's like, "This is a white blood cell. This is what it's supposed to do," but it's surrounded and being crushed. Or the other guy had one, but he's like, "Do you notice how like this one's really bright and this one is really kind of dim and gray?" He's like, "It's dying. It's like it can't get its
Yeah.
energy up.
Yeah.
It's like it's tired. It's exhausted." It's just so interesting.
Yeah. I wish I would have gotten to hear a little bit about that, not fight. Fight's
Yeah.
not the right word. The yelling match that guy was having with him.
Yeah.
But I was too busy talking to Angeline, who will be on our show because
Yay.
she does
Numerology.
she's awesome. Anyway, I was chit-chatting, but I heard a little bit. What was that commotion about? The guy was like, "You're full of shit," or what?
Yeah, the guy came over and I didn't hear all of it, but he essentially just started while he was working on the older woman. He was trying to ask. So this is what happened. We did the water. He came up in the middle of him testing the water. A
Okay.
woman in line had just a fresh bottle of water. He literally cracked it open. It looked like an Arrowhead bottle. You could hear him crack it open for the first time, and he poured some onto his little glass, and to put it on the microscope. But what happens with a microscope is that you put the sample on the bottom glass and you cover it with the other thin
Yeah.
veil. And then he puts an oil on top that's specific for microscopes. It's something they use for every fucking microscope on the planet, right? It's
Like a transmitter.
the microscope only sees underneath the first layer. And if it's not clear,
That's right.
then it essentially acts like a film in between to allow the image to get back to the top. And because they don't touch, like it doesn't the glass of the microscope lens doesn't touch the bottom, so it has to be able to transmit the image. Um, so he put it on top and then he put it under the glass, and the guy wasn't there for all the other samples he had done. So when he was saying, "Oh, let's go find a parasite or let's go look for stem cells in the water," which I also, just side note, he said there's stem cells in our water because he's, to his belief, and he has not proved this, and he's very good about saying, like, my understanding of this is, and my belief is, that we have stem cells in every water source. If you dive, if you drill 50 miles down and get water out of the core of the earth, it's stem cells from other beings that have lived and died in the earth, and that our stem cells actually never really, they're the longest living things of all time. And so we actually are consuming stem cells from prehistoric beings, which I thought was super fascinating
Yeah.
and totally possible.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. That's a whole episode if we can get him to come on the podcast just to talk about that.
And kidnap him with our microphones. But we should definitely go to see me. So yeah, so the guy came up and he was like, "Wait a second, he's like, "You put something on that. You put something on that to show us. So what if that's the thing that has the parasites in it?" And he's like, "Bro, this is microscope oil." And like, he went through the whole explanation of how it works, and I did not verbalize it well. Trust me, you guys should go look it up yourselves. He was explaining it, like, the guy was like, "But I don't believe you. Like, what do you mean? Like, how do we know that?" And he's like, "Do I have to fucking," he's like, "You weren't even here for the whole thing." He's like, I'm trying to give my energy to these people. You're taking up too much of my time."
Yes.
But he had to go through the
Yeah.
explanation. He's like, "Okay, let me throw this away. Let's just look at the oil." He's like, "Here you go. Let's look at the oil." And he put the oil straight up on the lens just to see it. You couldn't see anything because it wasn't conducting anything. It doesn't have any live energy in it. It's just oil. So he's like, "This is just clean oil, dude. Like, there's nothing in it, and you're gonna see it. Like, there's nothing on the lens." He was just moving it around. He's like, "I'm not doing anything to this. It is literally just oil." And so, like, it took that,
Yeah.
and then he had to, like, straight up, he had very good eye contact with his giant crystal, and he was like, "Bro, I am here to treat these people. If you don't want to be here for that, if you don't want to put your energy into me helping them, you're taking up my time right now," which means they're taking up their time, and they have things that they're trying to
Yeah.
work on to get better. It was so good. I was like,
Yeah, we're not here to like convince you. If you're not into it, bye. That's the same thing with the people where we're like, oh, their stuff didn't resonate. I'm not in there going, wait, hold on. Is that real? Lemuria,
Yeah.
what? I don't believe in
That's
that.
bullshit.
Just leave.
Yeah.
Like it's not for
Yeah.
you.
Conscious Life Expo. If you think you're not going to see
Yeah,
some
get
weird
out.
shit, get the fuck out. Anyway, that was the majority of the time that we spent there. We're so excited because I mean, we obviously we got in line to be with Stan to get our blood drawn, but I mean, the real takeaway was all the shit we learned from it, but also that you met Angeline, which is super cool. And then we got a chance to walk around the vendors a little bit, and
Yep.
we one of the first people we walked into was this woman named Marie Diamond. Okay, we're both showing. You have to get closer to the camera.
Cool. Where's my I did. I don't know what's going on. What's happening? Why is it disappearing me? This is very concerning. Oh, whoa, there it is. Marie Diamond. The book I'm holding is called The Energy Number Book.
Yes, and mine is the vision board.
If you see me in the video, it's like magic. Ooh, where's Lori?
Lori's a
Where's
witch.
Waldo?
Lori's the witch, guys. She's just making herself disappear. Anyway, so Marie, we walked by and started chatting with some of her people, and I got to chat with her. She's very cool. She is from Belgium.
Belgium.
Yeah. She does feng shui, as it were. And so her newest book is Your Home as a Vision Board. But I think a lot of her background is she did a lot of study on numerology and feng shui and like energy in your home. So she's obviously being very Gen Z and being like, oh, it's vision board time. But it's really cool. So she has her own app. Lori and I did our compassing. Let me pull up mine because I'm wondering if I could show it.
Yeah.
So it's basically just like your astrology chart. You have an energy number chart. So my energy number, according to my gender and date of birth, is 2. And it explains what that archetype is, which for me is the teacher. Lori, what's your number?
8, the connector.
We felt like those were fairly on point, but then it talks about the different ways that they relate to success and money, relationships, health, and wisdom, and then your best directions. So it has a compass. So when you're talking about feng shui, which is like the understanding of energy points in the room and where to place furniture or different physical items to absorb or extract the best energy from them, right? Kind of is what I took from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
so based on your
Mm-hmm.
number, you have different areas that you should be pointing towards based on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
So like I translate it to I'm an 8 if I want to do a spell, for example, for myself on success, then I can use the app and it'll
Yeah.
tell me southwest is your best corner for creating success. So then I might, cast my spell or put the items from that spell in that
Mm-hmm.
corner of my home because it is the best
Yeah.
location.
So if you guys can kind of see this, I am actually the way I'm facing for this podcast is not in any energy field for me. It's not in my best energy field for anything. It has on here success, wisdom, health, and relationships. So if I'm currently facing like slightly southwest right now, and it's just blank. So if I were actually to turn this and I were to face the podcast this direction, it says is the best
Yeah.
energy field for success for me. Versus if I were facing
Oh,
over here, I should have been facing this way for my wisdom. That would have been smart. You can download the Marie Diamond app and figure it out for yourselves. But we're excited to read the
we'll
books.
put
And by we, I mean Lori
yeah.
to read the books. I don't read. I know how. I'm just really slow at it. It would take me 5 years to finish this book. But it's really very cool to think about how you can organize your space for your correct alignment like to be successful. Some things may not make any sense just according to like the layout of your house, but you can also like if you're looking for a new house, utilize that in the space to be like, if the table is facing the center of the room for me to be successful, maybe this isn't the right room for me. Like this is not good setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She also has classes that she does online
Mm-hmm.
to teach people this. She also works with dowsing rods, which I'm totally into right now. That's a separate episode.
Mm-hmm.
But what I appreciated about her, even though she as has some fame and notoriety, she's like, I have a million people doing a class or whatever. She took time to talk to us. She listened to
Yeah,
what the podcast was about. She gave us our info. It's like, totally, I'm down to help any female entrepreneurs that are in this space. I'm happy to be interviewed. Like, I
super
really
cool.
appreciated that. I think she was one of the most, yeah,
Yeah.
like one of the most like
She took time to take
open
a
ones.
photo
Yeah.
with us. It was a terrible photo of us. But, fair enough.
It was,
Our compasses might not be facing the same direction. So maybe you need to be like over
ooh, I
here.
wonder. Ooh, maybe we need to start considering this. I definitely think that photo was the equivalent of one of those checkout camera photos. You're scanning your groceries and you're like, oh my God, am I that
Yes, you
hideous?
look
What
up.
is happening?
It's like the TJ Maxx line. It's like a horrible thing right above you, and you're like, where is it? And why is it making my ass
What
look
is
so
happening
huge?
right now?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's really not good. Um,
Oh my God.
it was like a
Piper wants to make a
hi Piper.
hello.
Hi sweet girl. Oh,
For everyone who's listening, that's my dog who's going in and out of the thing. She's like, don't use me as
yeah.
a ploy to be on your show with my cuteness.
Yeah. Oh, Pipes.
Sorry.
She looks so clean and fluffy. I tried to do the cat, but he's hates being lifted or touched or moved. Just kidding. He likes being pet, but he's like, don't pick me up. He's also almost 20 pounds, so I'm just not going to spend my energy doing that. It's so crazy. I know he needs a diet. Anyway, so that was Marie. We're hoping to talk to her more soon. And then you had some other chats with people. But before I
I
left,
did.
Lori and I got a little crazy and we bought some mushrooms. We bought some magic mushrooms, yes, and we're more TBD on that. But the woman who started the company called Panacea, she was so lovely, and Lori actually had this really beautiful
Yeah.
moment where she interjected while she and I were chatting, and Lori got to do a little reading with her, and she got really emotional. It was just a really beautiful connection. So I always love watching when that happens. You were like,
Wow.
"Hey, I'm getting a message. Are you okay?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then it was this whole very beautiful moment. And I'm not going to talk about her business, but it was really cool after we were all vibing on magic mushrooms and lattes and, natural things.
Yeah, definitely loved having that little time with her. So let's see. Sunday, after you left and I moseyed around on my own, I actually didn't go to any other workshops. I ended up talking to just random vendors and people, which was really
Yeah.
cool. So, one person that I'm excited to get on the pod, his name is Mike Rickseeker. Make sure I say that right. Yes, he has a few books, but the first one I have is called A Walk in the Shadows. And because my camera's weird, you probably can't
You have
see
to
the
put, yeah,
book.
right
Oh,
in front
there,
of you.
kind of.
Perfect.
Anyway, he has this book. He has a couple other books. He's featured on the Gaia Network. So got to briefly meet him. He's agreed to come on and chat with us. I don't even know where to start with him because he's got so much, time travel, shadow people, portals. Like, just got to find time to read all the books. I mean, I literally ended up with like 15 books from this thing. I don't
Well,
know when I think I'm going to be able to read all the
I'm literally
books,
like sifting through this
but
and I'm like, where did we miss this woman? Massive orgasmic activation. I'm like, okay. So that was not
I
a
didn't
room.
see
That's
that.
not a
Where was
room I
that?
wanted to be in with, a bunch of strangers, but I mean,
In public?
interesting. Yeah, 100%. That sounds like a private experience, but
A one-on-one
yeah. If
session?
that, maybe 0 on 1.
A videotape. You're like, "Can I get that on audio,
Yeah,
please?"
literally. But guys, I mean, we're just gonna have no shortage of people to talk to because there's just thousands. I can't even tell you how many people are advertising on this. The vendors. This is just the vendors. Like just people selling things also
It was
on
wild.
top of
Yeah.
all this. This is like a one day. Can you see this?
Yeah. That's crazy. I also bought a pendulum, a very
Ooh.
amazing pendulum. It's beautiful. It has a Buddha on it because that's my
Yeah.
jam. Yeah. So there were a few others, but mostly super excited about some of these authors and numerology, which I'm totally into trying to figure
Yeah.
out. I love that 8 ended up being my number with Marie. It's also what
So
Angelina
true.
and I talked about as 8.
Yeah.
And I've been having this thing with the number 8 for the last year, telling my family, like, we have so many number 8s. Like, my birthday is the 8th day. My daughter was born on the 18th of the month. My niece was born in 2018. My brother's birthday is August 26th. The 8th month and 6 plus 2 equals 8. So, anyway,
Very
8 is my
interesting.
jam. 3 is also my number, but 8 is my, like,
It's also like
connect number.
it's like the infinity.
Infinity
There's
sign.
like, yeah, eternal life, weird. There's weird stuff with eights. It would make sense that
Yeah.
you've befriended a Leo. The ith month
Oh, yeah. And yours was 2, and your
is the
birthday date is 21. Yeah, so 2. It's pretty interesting.
if Josh were here, he'd be like, "Is it?
Is it though? It's a
Is it?"
coincidence.
He's like, "There's only so many months. Somebody's got to be born then." We'll see what his number is, and then he will prove it. I wanted to before we bounce off. I was sifting through things, and I wanted to show everyone Zazar. That's Zazar, everybody. If you're
Oh,
not
yeah.
seeing this, you got to go to YouTube now. Too bad you're stuck, but it's basically a character from Avatar.
It's pretty
Yeah.
wild. I'll put as many of the links and, info to everyone we talked about in the show
Yeah.
notes. The other thing I'd love to try, and everyone humor me, there is the option in Apple, you can send us a text message.
Oh,
So you can literally text us and say like, "Hey Lori, hey Liz, what's up?" I'd love if you took a minute and let us know like who you want to hear from the
yeah.
most. Like if you could pick the next guest that we're talking about, who would it be?
Yeah.
Like, let us
Yeah.
know. Send us a quick text. I think it would be really, really fun. And any other topics you'd love for us to talk about, like, send us a text. And if you think we're amazing, send us a text.
If you think
If you
we're
think we're
not,
not amazing,
move on. Just just turn this off.
don't text
You
me.
don't need any
Don't text.
messages. Lori probably already
No.
knows.
Yeah. Don't tell me the audio is not always great or Every needs an editing class. All stuff we know. Okay. We want to know what you guys want more of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are here for it,
Yeah.
but we're excited to get back with our interviewees and find out more crazy, kooky, awesome, unbelievably beyond dimensional things. So,
Love it.
everybody, enjoy your day, your weekend, your night,
I
but
love
you go
that.
off and be witchy, be amazing, and we will catch you next time on Beyond Dimensional.
Bye, everybody. See ya.